What's going on, everybody? It's your boy GemMint. We've been making posts in our Facebook group Geminites asking people what their worst omnibus reads were, but today's video is going to be what is the most overrated omnibus that you've ever read, something that was hyped up by the community, something that everybody said you had to grab, was the best buy, was the best read, whatever. We're going to take a look at the responses in our Facebook group, but before we do that, we are going to New York Comic Con this weekend, and we've got a bunch of whatnot shows planned. We've got some New York Comic Con exclusives like this Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 111, David Mack Daredevil #1 exclusive, the Rob Liefeld Captain America, homaging his original Heroes Reborn. But that's not all, man. We've got a super special drop with Johnny Desjardins. In honor of Spider-Man 2, we did a Johnny Desjardins sketchbook with a regular version, a foil, and an embossed metal. So come on over to Whatnot. If you haven't signed up yet, use the link in the description. It'll give you a $10 credit that you can use towards your first purchase on the app. All right, here we go. So that's the Facebook post. What's the most overrated omnibus? Ryan Dickerson said, I don't know if this counts as an omni or just a story, but the original Secret Wars was way overhyped. Ah, man, I got to disagree. I can see why you're saying it, though. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a must-own in the collection. I think it's a must-read, but it was definitely just like a marketing gimmick to sell action figures, and it was the first big Marvel crossover event, so it's got like clout as like the first time, but it's not the best story, but it's still fun, though. I mean, you get the symbiote, you get the big Battle World stuff. Here goes some replies. That's weird. I don't know who would hype that, but it was known as a shameless marketing product. Yeah, from back in the original. Exactly. Gonna get hate for this, but Superman by Tomasi was pretty mid for me, and I loved Batman and Robin and Super Sons. You know what? I remember reading Super Sons and Batman and Robin, and I don't really remember reading Superman by Peter J. Tomasi. And I had read it back to back with like the new Morrison run and The Exiled and Other Stories. Like I did a Superman read through like a year or so ago. Yeah, I don't really have any strong feelings about that run whatsoever. Probably gonna get some hate, but Batman Nightfall / Night Quest was kind of boring for me. Now, there's definitely boring lull moments in that 3 omnibus set. I think especially in volume 2, it gets a little bit boring. Yeah, Scott, he's been contributing a lot here. It's pretty well known. It's another one of those kind of history runs. You got to think at the time it was really just this big, massive event. So condensed into omnibus, it might be a lot. I read the trade paperbacks, and Nightfall is 5 stars. The other 2 are not that good, but I assume the omnibus has more filler in it. Yeah, exactly. I read this when they were being released, and I love the story. Shout out Richard Kroll. So Scott, this is his contribution. Number 1, he thinks Aquaman by Jeff Johns is overhyped. What we do get in there is pretty great, but it's short, and there's a huge cliffhanger at the end that goes absolutely nowhere and leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth. I do remember that. I remember just kind of like reading the omnibus, and it wasn't boring. It was kind of exciting. It was kind of like blockbuster feeling, but it did have that cliffhanger. But overall, I did like it. But everybody still puts it on their top list. But see, doing the top DC list is hard. There's just not the pool to choose from like with Marvel. Secret Warriors by Hickman. People claim to absolutely love this thing. For me, it was just a lot of organizational charts and people having meetings while trying to act tough. And I thought it was essential to the Hickman read-through of Fantastic Four and Avengers, which is not. That being said, I read the whole thing. I didn't give up on it. I don't know anybody who's hyping this book up that it's a must-read or must-buy, so I don't know that underrated. Same with Aquaman. If it's in the top 10 DC omnibus list, I can see why you would feel it's overrated. Definitely for me is Morrison Batman. Just couldn't get into it for some reason. That's obvious. We're not going to do the Batman Morrison hate on this video. We already did 2 videos of that. Gotta have an IQ 150. Yes. Definitely Fantastic Four by Hickman. There's no way that's overrated. It's a great read. It's great, don't get me wrong, but the way everyone made it out, the run was to be so solid was misleading. The story post volume 1 is a mess. If you haven't read Annihilation and War of Kings, I can see that. Johnny's comeback was the highlight. Yeah, when he comes back from like the negative zone or whatever, right? But also the Franklin Richards relationship with Galactus was crazy. I don't want to say it's overrated because I think it lives up. Uncanny X-Force for sure. Damn, because I put that on one of my tops. People are going to agree. This one got so hyped up for me that I had to manually move my expectations down a peg because I knew it wouldn't be that amazing. I was wrong. It's great. Okay, one of my favorite books, but I can see why it doesn't hit for everybody. Is there a better X-Force omnibus? Would you say the original run? Man, that's for nostalgia, maybe. Thor by Walter Simonson and any Claremont X-Men omnibus. So I'm going to tell you right now, they're not easy reads, especially for new readers, right? If you didn't grow up with it, they're kind of dense. I actually gave up halfway through Thor, and I was enjoying it. I got past the Beta Ray Bill arc. It might be the first arc of the Omni, if I remember it. Claremont, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like a lot of the stuff he did during his like heyday run on Uncanny X-Men, the Dark Phoenix saga and what have you. God Loves Man Kills is phenomenal. I think I read that in a an oversized Treasury edition or something. Days of Future Past was good, but the rest felt like a chore to read. There were tough reads in there, but there were some good ones too. More than just Days of Future Past, I would say. I couldn't finish Thor by Simonson, was so boring. Damn. I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, but Roger Stern's Spider-Man Omnibus. Yo, and some people that you'll see in the comments, they'll put that as their number one. I have a hard time with that one as well. He said, oof, majority of that was straight bad and not well put together. It was so hard to get through. Dang. Scott says, kind of agree with you. There's about 10 very good issues in there. I love whenever Hobgoblin shows up. Yeah, that's me. I read the Hobgoblin stuff. Finally, I'm not the only one. I really tried enjoying that omnibus, but it just wasn't living up to the hype. But love the Hobgoblin issues for sure, yeah. Tristan Goulet says, Planetary. Everyone hyped it up to be one of the greatest runs, but I couldn't finish it. It was a chore to read. I read Planetary. I enjoyed it. I did a review of it. It had interesting concepts. It was fun. And then I read The Authority, and I read like 3/4 of it on the plane going to San Diego Comic-Con, and I never finished it. Hence, never doing the review. For me, it's Hick Vengers. For as long as it is, there's a lot of telling and not showing. Example is the Cannonball / Smasher. Whole relationship was basically to mark passage of time, not part of the story for readers to sink their teeth into. By the end, the only thing that actually mattered was the new Avengers storyline. Yeah, I liked it, man. I liked Secret Wars and the incursions, and that all led up to basically combining the Ultimate Universe with the Marvel 616. New X-Men, yes, the stories are really good, but the art just makes it painful to read. What about the whole Zorn stuff, right? Spider-Man by JMS, over half the entire run is mediocre or garbage, and there are some unforgivable issues. One More Day trash. Wasn't that also the Gwen Stacy, Norman Osborn relationship? Ultimate Spider-Man by Bendis is kind of wild, but it's funny. Like I've mentioned this in the other video. It was meant to be a retelling of Spider-Man in the modern age from the year 2000. So now that's out of date, basically. Uncanny X-Force, again. D-Rock saying, oh, hell no. I'm one that champions that book, and I've seen other people not like it in the past, so you're not alone. Kenneth J. Franklin says, Uncanny X-Force. Come on, man. Not great. Awesome art. Story was incredibly forgettable. The Apocalypse resurrected. That's awesome, man. Spidey 2099. All right. So basically, me and Kenny Franklin have opposite tastes. Very product of its time. Read now is average. Great Leonardi art, yes. But once he left, there was no longer a reason to power through. Man, I wish they would have done more with it, but I enjoyed what we got, for sure. Mithun says, Flashpoint Omnibus, except for the main event, most of the tie-ins except Batman, Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan, Abin Sur, and Frankenstein were boring fillers and a chore to read. Better to have the Absolute Edition. Yeah, I can agree with that. I think most people will agree. If you're talking overrated Omnis, not so much the story or the art, but the fact that everyone says this is the best Omni, when most of it is filler that you don't like, I can see you putting that up there. And you're going to see that complaint with a lot of event omnis, because a lot of tie-ins, man, are filler, and they don't really matter to the story. So that can be frustrating when you're investing time to reading it, right? Rick Dosty says, comics, like movies and TV, are always influenced by the times, and when you read or watch something, yeah, I kind of read that sentence weird. Yeah, but like, stuff's going to feel like a product of its time. It's going to feel dated. They're going to sing along to lyrics to Rebecca Black Friday. And it's like, you know, that was popular however many years ago. This is why I read New Weekly Comics. It's really the best way to decide for yourself what you like and not being influenced by others. Some people get very influenced by online opinion these days. Ooh, feels like he's attacking. So I really can't answer this question, but wanted to put in a few comments. As somebody who could potentially influence someone to buy something, what I would want to say is, you know, I see a lot of people comment like, oh, I think I would like this too because we seem to have similar tastes. So if you see that you like stuff that I like, then it would make sense to take a recommendation. But, you know, learn to see if we even have similar tastes. It might be good for Kenneth to say, all right, whatever Gem's into, I'm going to stay away from that because we obviously like different stuff, which I think is good in itself. I was telling somebody, we had my friend Faithful Steve stayed over, and I'm like, yo, I want the video to help you decide whether you want to buy it or whether you don't want to buy it. It doesn't really matter to me whether you buy it or not, but it should help you make a decision one way or the other. Kirill says Batman by Tom King, read the OHCs. That's not really an omnibus. Okay, Ultimate Spider-Man, which is an omnibus. He read the trades. It was okay, but really couldn't make me a Spider-Man fan. Time to crack those JMS. I don't think that's going to do it. The Authority, expected more for the hype. I mean, it's not that much better than Stormwatch. Why the Last Man has started good. So I don't know that these are overrated. I've seen people champion The Authority. I don't see people champion Why the Last Man. Ultimate Spider-Man, I do see that. Or Tom King. I think I see more Tom King hate towards Batman more than anything. Peter says, for me, definitely Dark Knight's Metal Omnibus. Everybody loves it, and it just wasn't worth it. The only thing I liked about those were the one-shots of Batman from the Dark Multiverse. I got you. The main story with Perpetua and all that stuff, it did get a little crazy. They turned it into a crisis event, essentially, right? Josh says, anything Hickman. Preacher, one of the worst series I've ever read. That's wild. Simonson Thor, again, I haven't finished it. Invincible is crazy. Brubaker Cap, I enjoyed. Wade Cap haven't read. Wade Daredevil haven't read. Remender X-Force, again, Uncanny X-Force, I love it. I'm sure there's more that those I always get flack for hating. Yeah, 24 replies. Yeah, see? I have to agree with Brubaker Cap. I bought the first 3 Omnis. First were okay. I lost interest somewhere in the second and then sold all 3. Benjamin Gonzalez agrees with the Preacher take. Hickman has been all or nothing with me. East of West, I still haven't read. Has been one of my best reads of the year. Of the remaining, I enjoyed Invincible, Brubaker Cap, Remender's X-Force, but I can see why it's not for everyone. I can second Preacher, terrible art and horribly unlikable characters. Disagree. Tanner, too, I'm surprised. Give him my wow emoji real quick. Wow, Remender X-Force. This one is actually surprising. I think it's in a lot of top 5 X-Omnis. Yeah, hell yeah. It's got to be in mine for sure, right? Show some love with the interactions. Josh says, All-Star Superman. Yo, that I can agree with you, man. I feel like people put that up as like the best Superman story of all time. And to me, it was just like, I don't know, it was kind of forgettable. Wasn't he in jail the whole time and Lex Luthor or something? It was forgettable for me. I honestly don't remember. Yeah. Traded him to my LCS. Oh, we're still talking about this guy's post who had Invincible and everything. Yeah, he's wildin'. Secret Wars, maybe it doesn't hold up. I don't know if he's talking about, I guess he must be talking about the original because Hickman's Secret Wars is not technically in an omnibus. Here goes Lucas, not an omnibus, but he's gonna say Batman by Tom King. Yeah, I don't think anyone's saying that's a great run though. Not gonna lie, Spider-Man by Michelini and McFarlane is super underwhelming. Like it wasn't what I expected, and to be honest, maybe kind of like Venom less and less as I went on with it. His run didn't pick up for me until Eric Larson jumped on board and actually got really good when Bagley took over on art. I don't know, I still loved the McFarlane Michelini stuff, and I thought it peaked with Venom, even though I am more of a fan of Bagley's Venom, and I like Larson's Venom too, but I still enjoyed the Michelini McFarlane stuff. Really struggled to finish Gideon Falls and usually love that stuff. Yeah, damn Blake, I liked Gideon Falls. Not an omnibus, but there are like library editions, collected editions for it. Derek Bradley over there, D-Rock Reviews, says, this is a hard one. If I had to choose, I'd go with Avengers vs. X-Men Omnibus. Main event was good, but the majority of the tie-ins were just okay. Definitely didn't live up to the hype for me. I actually read that in single issues in every tie-in. That was one of the events that was starting as I was getting back into reading, and I was picking up every variant that I liked, picking up every tie-in for sure. I would eventually go on to sell all those runs and get into key issues, and then I would collect key issues for a long time and then get into statues, and it was a snowball effect from there. Batman Eternal. Story doesn't really matter, and there are about 50 different artists, and most of them are on average or below. Yeah, but I don't think anyone's saying Batman Eternal is a must-read Omni, right? Grant Morrison Batman, yeah, we know. We all kind of agree for the most part. Except for those that don't. It's such a weird thing. Thor by Jason Aaron, by far from Marvel. Kind of thought it sucked hard. For DC, Batman by Snyder. Nah, I like both of those runs. That's crazy. I can see people not liking Jane Foster Thor. But I mean, to me, I always knew it was a temporary thing. It was a storyline. It had a nice arc to it, and boom. Then Donny Cates took over, and I loved what he did with Thor. Yeah, the Jason Aaron Thor stuff starts out awesome, but after Thor, God of Thunder, it's just not as good. It's more mediocre than anything. The art's good, though. I thought the God Butcher arc was okay. The rest was hot garbage. Nah, I liked it. I mean, I read and reviewed Volume 1. I had read it back-to-back, dropped a review. I was really into it. I recently, actually, I don't even think I released it at the time of recording, did an overview of Volume 2 that, I think it comes out on like the 24th or something. Hickman, FF, and Animal Man. I don't know if he means Animal Man by Jeff Lemire or by Grant Morrison. Either way, he's wrong. Oh, and that's John. Age of Apocalypse by a wide margin. It's overcomplicated and boring, even though I like the concepts in it. Honorable mentions, Secret Wars Spider-Man by John Michael Straczynski. A lot of people agree on Star Wars and Spider-Man by JMS and Age of Apocalypse. What the hell, man? Animal Man by Grant Morrison. While that level of meta existential writing was edgy for the medium at the time, it's just old hat at this point. It doesn't carry the same wow factor that it did 35 years ago. The art was okay. I wasn't a fan of the subdued, super flat color palette or dated dialogue. I liked it. A very mature and adult take on a comic book character. He lucked out and traded it to JP from Organic Price Books for some gift cards right before they announced a reprint. Yo, shout out to JP from Organic Price Books. It's not really the complete omnibus, but the tie-ins and the Death and Return of Superman, those were hard to get through. Dustin Gregg says he feels opposite about that book. I love the Reign of the Superman over the rest of the book. I just liked how dumb it was. The rest was pretty boring. But here's another one for Avengers vs. X-Men. It was an inconsistent mess, in my opinion. Character powers were either nerfed or overpowered for stupid fights to play out. It was an insult to most characters. Yeah, because there was like an AVX 6-issue miniseries, which was just like, what, 2 or 3 battles in each issue. Matt says The Boys by Garth Ennis. I've never seen a book with so much potential that was just absolutely trash for the most part. Ennis sacrifices story and plot for shock value at every turn. It does start to get better about halfway through the series, but for me, the show is light years better than the comic. Man, I disagree. I like the comic more. I talked about did I get into it? I can't remember if I edited that out or not. I talked about why I love The Boys in another video. Green Lantern by Jeff Johns, pretty much anything by him besides Aquaman. See, he likes Aquaman, where the other guy felt it was overrated. Michael says, honestly, pretty much every X-Men omnibus outside of New X-Men and Astonishing, those are the two that I give recommendations for because they're kind of like easier to just jump into than saying, yeah, just go read Uncanny of decades of Claremont X-Men. Uncanny X-Force, I was bored reading most of it and sold it when I was done since I knew I'd never read it again. Batman Arkham Asylum, big steamy heap of shit, hated every page of that crap. So I actually read the Arkham Asylum Absolute and just didn't do a review on it. I just couldn't even think of anything that I wanted to talk about. What was that? Gordon with his son, that whole thing? Doug says, I'm going to have to say that Hawkeye by Fraction is overrated. I kind of enjoyed that run. Immortal Hulk for sure. Dang. Agreed. Don't get the hype on this one. I tried reading it multiple times. Can't do it. Dang. I liked Immortal Hulk. But again, I read it as it was coming out in single issues. Maybe it's too much in a big boy Omni like that. Here goes Tony Dwayne. Another one. Thor by Jason Aaron. People are acting like it's the best Thor run ever. I don't think so. Ed Lute says Morrison's Batman. Yeah, we know. Anything Morrison, we know. His Batman comic run is a masterpiece, but didn't appreciate it the first time. Oh, okay. Why the Last Man? People love that book, but I found the series of coincidence narrative boring. Plenty worse books out there, but overhyped to enjoyment ratio was why. I liked Why the Last Man. I don't feel like it was overhyped. I feel like it met the hype that it had at the time when I read it, which was way before shows were announced or anything. Look, another one, Ultimate Spider-Man or Immortal Hulk. God, I'm... So check this out, man. This might be a good list of things to be leery of, right? Uncanny X-Force. Gem loves it. Same with Spider-Man by McFarlane. Black Panther by Priest and Deathstroke by Priest I would love to read. I feel like I did do Deathstroke by Priest. I feel like I did a review on that. But I would love to do a review on Black Panther by Priest. J-Rock says Hickman Avengers was so worried and boring. Didn't like it. Wade's Cap was average. All New Wolverine. Yeah, but I don't know if that's overhyped. Silver Surfer by Dan Slott's going to be championed by a certain type of reader. Not 90s Ron Lim fan Silver Surfer reader, I feel like. So I feel like if you're that type of Surfer reader, I don't think you would like Dan Slott's. Brubaker's Daredevil, Aaron's Thor did not live up to the hype. Seven Soldiers by Morrison. I mentioned that in the other video. That one I was always leery about getting into. He said Planetary 2 wasn't terrible, but not worth reading. Keeping on my shelf after one read, so it wasn't worth it. I guess he got rid of it. The Boys, just don't have the taste for that. It's definitely like shock jock, Howard Stern making comic books in the 90s type of vibe. Another one for Secret Wars, Superior Foes of Spider-Man. See, I agree with that one. And that's one that I get flack for. Hating on Superior Foes. The Boys in Secret Wars, sure, but the rest, damn. Yeah, that's kind of a weird mix of stuff that I do like and don't like. Grant Morrison's Batman run, yes. Not that I can speak for others, but I feel like Ultimate Spider-Man was hyped up, which everyone fell for, and they read it and were like, meh, Batman, Snyder for sure. I disagree. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, so it was cool to see a newer take on all the origins and all the origins of the villains, and they tweaked and changed things, some for better, some for worse. Watchmen, not an omnibus, but it's an absolute. Nah, I think that's a top absolute for sure. One thing I keep hearing hype about was Animal Man by Lemire, and ended up selling it right after. There was a few strong issues, but the stuff with the red and the magic was not for me. I felt like a story Lemire was planning to write independently, but DC gave him a clean slate with Animal Man and New 52. The art was rough in this book. The thing about it is, he was very much working with Scott Snyder on that run, especially for the big event. So it doesn't feel like a solo Lemire book for sure. Conan the Barbarian Volume 10. I mean, nobody was hyping this, but it was pretty whack. And this is coming from a Conan fan. Yeah, ain't nobody hyping up none of them Conan books. Nah, but for Conan fans who love it, I get it. That's your guy. Animal Man, again, which one? But I like both. Mark Spector Moon Knight Volume 1, overrated. Astonishing X-Men. It wasn't bad, but it's overrated AF in my opinion. I've heard so many good reviews, which I would give it. And things about it, but I read it in a day. It is a quick read, and it was not all that amazing. Just not bad at all, but definitely not worth the hype that it has. Another one for Hawkeye by Fraction and Avengers by Hickman. Spider-Man 2099, whatever. Spider-Man by Tomasi again. Just felt so cookie cutter and generic. Yeah, that's what I feel like thinking back about that run. I don't even remember anything like unique about that run. Annihilation Omnibus, I liked it, man. It was very new for me. I had never even heard about that run before I got into Omnibus because I missed that whole decade of comics. Wade Daredevil, I don't hear anybody hyping it. I think Preacher was a bit overhyped for me, but I thought it was an okay read, not as amazing as people make it out to be. I think, man, especially when you think about the time that it came out, though. Another one, Easy, Annihilation, just couldn't get into it. Luckily, I've only gotten the digital version and not dipped into buying the Omnibus. Another one for Preacher. Dang. I agree with everyone saying Annihilation. It was good, just didn't hit that mark. Now, Conquest, the Nova storyline I really enjoyed. Yeah, Nova Prime, I liked all the growth for Nova in that whole storyline. To be fair, I don't remember what happened in Annihilation, Conquest, War of Kings, War of Realms. It all just kind of blends in for me. Oh, and then that's me right there. Oh, bumping this post, gonna react to it tomorrow. All right, y'all, so that was our Facebook group members. Like I said, the group on Facebook is called GemMintC. It's like mostly omnibus collectors and readers, but we've got statue collectors and weekly comic book readers, fans of the channel, everyone in that group. So come on and swing by. I'm going to make a new post. We're going to go with what's the best, man. I played with the negativity for the YouTube algorithms, but restore my faith in humanity. Come join the group and let's participate in what's the best omnibus, what's the most underrated, and we'll keep doing more stuff like this. We'll probably get into it with statues and maybe we'll do it with video games and everything, man. But thanks for coming through. Make sure to come check us out on Whatnot this weekend. We're at New York Comic Con Live, and stay minty fresh, man. Peace. This video is brought to you by Ninja Funk. Ninja Funk is already celebrating their 1-year anniversary, and they're having a huge event at the Ninja Exchange in Carlsbad, California. Not only will there be a live signing with co-creators JPG and Steve Shuitt, but they're bringing out legendary artists Jim Lee and David Mack. But that's not all. We have special guest John Dolmayan, the creator of Essentia, founder of Torpedo Comics, and happened to play drums in a little band called System of a Down. If you're in the area, make sure to come swing by on November 18th and 19th for the celebration.